Let's talk some chess. In this video, we're going to discuss one of the greatest moves of all time, specifically the second greatest move of all time per chess.com. I've linked that article below. This was played in a game where Georg Meyer, the German grandmaster, is playing with white pieces. Someone named Muller is playing with black pieces. Unfortunately, couldn't find any more information on that player, so just have the name and picture here. And let's take a second to understand this position. This is just an amazing position with the white pieces. You have the two rooks doubled up on the e-file. This is obviously very threatening. The black king is very unsafe here on g8. The pawns are not doing a good job protecting the king. Meanwhile, the white king is very safe on g1. There's no imminent threat, and the pawn structure and bishop are mostly intact. White's pieces are all extremely active. The knight is threatening f7 and h7. The dark squared bishop is slicing this way across the king's front. The rooks, again, are quite active. Whereas with the black pieces, this light squared bishop is hemmed in by the knight. The knight has no good squares to go to. The dark squared bishop is near the king, but not defending many important squares. And the rooks and the queen are just sort of awkwardly lined up on the 7th and 8th rank. So this is a position that you should win with the white pieces. But it might be hard to find the super move that Meyer finds in this position. So take a second and see if you can find the second greatest move of all time in chess history. Okay, the move that Meyer plays is the astounding, incredibly surprising queen to c7. And this is just a wild a move and position. It looks like you've just given up a winning position and sacrificed your queen. The queen is sacrificed 3 different ways to both rooks and the enemy queen. And it doesn't look like anything is achieved. The queen has, in fact, moved farther away from the enemy king. So this is just a really strange looking move. So let's see what the threat is here. Whenever you make a crazy move like this, there has to be a threat where if you ignore this crazy move, something bad is going to happen. So in this case, let's say black just ignores it and plays a6. Then you're threatening queen takes queen on d8 with check, and the king has no squares to go. It's completely hemmed in from the bishop and the knight, so you need to capture the queen. But after rook captures on d8, either rook captures, doesn't matter. You're going to get rook to e8 with check, and now just a couple of trades. Rook takes, and this is going to lead to mate. I didn't do the full checkmate. Because I want to save this. Well, we'll just show you now. So this is a check. The king cannot move. And after the black rook takes, then you get the wonderful bishop to d5. And this is finally checkmate. The bishop is checking the king. The dark squared bishop is slicing across the king's front. And the knight actually is not doing anything in this case, but adding some emotional support to checkmate the enemy king. So bottom line is you can't ignore this queen on c7. It's threatening the black queen on d8, and that would lead to checkmate. But you can do something about it. You have 3 different pieces that you can capture with. So let's say, simplest, let's say you just do a queen trade. You capture the white queen with the black queen. This unfortunately leads to mate in just a couple of moves. In fact, 2 moves to be precise. You get rook to e8 with check, and again, you know, we just saw this. This is a super constricting mating net being delivered by the knight and the bishop. The rook is checking the king. You have to take the rook, but then you have a replacement rook on e1 that comes to e8 and delivers checkmate. So the issue here is that the queen is no longer on d8, and it's no longer guarding the e8 square. You've taken off a back rank defender from the black pieces, so checkmate is soon to follow. The same thing happens if you take the white queen with the rook on c8, because again, you're eliminating a back rank defender. Rook takes queen, then we get the same exact pattern, rook to e8, queen takes, rook to e8, checkmate. So black cannot eliminate a back rank defender. You cannot take the white queen with either this rook or this queen. But can you take it with the rook on d7? And that's exactly what black did. Plays rook takes on d7, and this looks like it should be fine, but then we get to the same exact pattern that we saw before. Rook to e8 check, and after this was played, I think black resigned the game, but we'll do the entire line here. Again, the rook is checking the king. We get queen takes on e8, rook takes, and it looks like it's all said and done, but you have this bishop to d5, and again, this is checkmate. The bishops are delivering checkmate by slicing across the king both ways. And what's important to note is that here's the reason for this queen sacrifice on d7. Right now, you can imagine in this position, there's a rook on d7 that's protecting the d5 square. So this bishop could not come to d5, in this line. But because of the queen on c7, it forces the rook away from d7. And then once we get the combination, the bishop on d5 is no longer attacked by a rook on d7 because the rook is on c7 instead. So that's the idea behind the queen sacrifice. Just a little subtle brilliancy there to, even if you don't take with a back rank defender, even if you don't take with the rook or the queen. If you take with this rook, the rook runs away from the defense of the all-important d5 square, and that leads to checkmate. So really, really cool. Once the queen is here, you have to, A, you have to capture the queen, because otherwise you get queen takes queen, and B, if you capture it with any of these pieces, you lose instantly. So that's no fun. And I should mention, you can't you can't necessarily run away, because there are no safe squares for this queen to go to without being captured by another piece. So yeah, just not going to work out. So a brilliant move. There is a better response to this move. It leads to a beautiful line. We'll show it just so so we can see. The best response, what the engine would play in defense here, is actually knight to e5. So ignoring the queen on c7. And the idea behind this is that you've clogged up the e-file. So now you don't have these two rooks both eyeing e8 simultaneously. So the series of attacks where the rooks land on e8 and end up checkmating the king doesn't work, because the knight is blocking the rook on e1. This still leads to a massive advantage for white. So for example, we get queen takes queen on d8, checking the king, rook takes on d8, and now bishop takes bishop on b7. So basically, when the knight moved away, that opened up a discovered attack from the bishop to the bishop. Ooh, don't want to do that. Sorry. When the knight moved away, this opens up a discovered attack. So after queen takes queen, rook takes queen, bishop takes bishop. And now we'll see a series of moves. Rook takes bishop back, but now we get f4 attacking this knight. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That's not what I want to show. Sorry about that. Knight moves, clogs up, queen, rook, bishop, f4. Is that what I want to show? No, I'm sorry. Knight to e5. That's what it is. I'm very sorry about that. Instead of queen takes queen, which would, I'm sure, be fine. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't want to speak for the engine here. Instead of queen takes queen, you actually take the bishop, because now the bishop is undefended. So queen takes bishop. Now rook takes queen, which is so it looks like you've sacked a queen, but now you get bishop takes rook on b7, and you can see white is starting to gain material back. Here, a nice intermezzo for black. D takes on c3, b takes on c3, and now rook to b8, running away from the attack of the bishop and attacking the bishop back with the rook. But now you get the inevitable rook to e8 with check. And this is a sort of a sly move. You're forking the queen and the king, so the king can't move, so you literally have to take it. So queen takes rook, but then you get this amazing bishop to b5 move, checking the king, and now your only option, the king cannot move anywhere, and your only option is to block with the queen. If you block with the knight, you just get bishop takes on f7, forking the king and queen, and the bishop is protected by the knight, so that doesn't work. So you give away your queen on f7, knight takes on f7, knight takes back on f7, and now finally a rook lift to e7. And here the material is equal. White has a rook and two bishops. Black has a bishop, a knight, and a rook. But this knight is going to fall. It's pinned by the bishop and attacked by the rook. So here, after bishop to g7, rook takes, bishop takes, and now rook to b7, opening up a discovered attack, a discovered check of the bishop to the king. And now you're just going to pick up the rook, and white is up material. And this is game over. So it's still, even with this best defense of putting the knight on e5, it still doesn't work. You still are up material with the white pieces in the end, but I wanted to show that there is a better defense. Definitely a less fun combination, but there are some cool moves in that line, so we might as well show it. So again, if you take with any of these pieces, you're sunk. If you block with the knight, if you block with the knight, you're not necessarily going to be mated, but you're going to be in an endgame down material, and that's not going to work. The last thing I wanted to say is that, interestingly, if you put this position in Stockfish, it very much likes the move queen to c7. It says that move is winning and totally fine, but there's actually a better move that leads to a forced mate, and that is a move we've seen in many of the lines in this position. It is bishop to d5, and this is mate in just a couple of moves. Again, when you make a move like this is kind of an absurd move, because you're sacrificing the bishop, what seems like twice. Both the rook and the queen can capture the bishop for free. The bishop is undefended here. So it looks like a crazy move. What's the threat if we ignore this crazy move? Let's say if you just play a6, then you just get checkmate in 1. The rook moves to e8, and now you have double check from the rook and a discovered check from the bishop. So whenever there's double check, the king has to move. You can't capture block or capture or block both pieces with one move. So the king has to move, but of course there's no squares for the king to move because all of these squares are taken away by white's pieces. So you have to deal with this bishop on d5, otherwise you're getting rook to e8 checkmate, so you have to accept the sacrifice. And in this case, if you take with the rook on d5, then you get the immediate... Wait, that's not the line I want to show. It's not that. Rook take on d5, queen... Yeah. Yes. Then you get queen to c7. And this is the same exact idea as before. You're putting the queen on c7, very familiar. We just talked about a lot of the lines, but let's talk about, you know, sort of what happens here. Again, if you just ignore this threat, if you ignore this double queen sacrifice and play a6, then you get the immediate queen to h7, and this is checkmate. All these squares are taken away by white's pieces, and the queen is protected by the knight on g5. So you can't ignore the threat, but again, it doesn't work to capture the queen. For example, do I want to do... No, what do I want to do? No. Oh, sorry. That's what I want to do. So the best move in this position, we saw a lot of the reasons why it doesn't work to capture the queen, because you're just going to get the rooks hailing down on e8. So let's just do one. Queen takes, then you've removed a back rank defender. Now rook takes, rook takes, rook takes it, and this is checkmate, so that doesn't work. So instead, again, the best way to defend this, very similar theme, is blocking the lanes, clogging the lanes with this knight on c6. So knight to e7 is the best way to defend, but then you just get rook takes on e7. And now, instead of capturing the queen, which, again, if you capture the queen with either the rook or the queen, you're going to get the white rooks teaming up on e8 to deliver checkmate. So here you try to block and defend with the black pieces. You put the rook on d7. Now you're forking the queen, forking the rook, hopefully clogging up the 7th rank. But this doesn't work because you get queen takes rook on c8, which is an interesting move. And now black just has to try to survive, plays bishop to g7, attacking this bishop, and now you get queen takes queen on d8, rook takes queen, and now the ultimate, the eventual rook takes on g7 with check. The king is in check, king moves, and now the beautiful knight to f7 completes the game with checkmate. The knight is checking the king, the rook is taking g8, and the bishop is protecting the rook, and this is game over. So yeah, that's the point is you know, as cool as this queen to c7 move is, it doesn't lead to a forced mate, where this bishop to d5 move does lead to a forced mate. But I think we can all agree that this move, the queen to c7 move, is better because it's so much cooler. So I think we're happy to see that on the board. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Just a crazy looking move, and hopefully it makes sense why it works, and yeah, how special a move it is, and I think very deserving of the #2 spot on the chess.com ranking. So thank you for watching. Drop a like, drop subscribe. Let me know of any games you'd like me to review, and we'll see you next time.